Hello, Scotty. How are you, buddy? What's going on? What do you have for me?
I'm good, Doggy. Looking really forward tomorrow to you and Mike on together. I think that'll be a great hour.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Well, it's going to be sort of a, it's not going to be really choreographed. It's going to be him and I just having fun. It's not. There's not a ton of.
That's always the best. That's always the way. That's always the way you guys performed best. Anyway, was when when you guys went off the cuff. So
it's not going to be a highly produced show. Go ahead. Let me hear.
Here's the two things on baseball. First, Chris, last hour you were talking about Syndergaard, DeGrom is the best one, too. I'd take Keuchel and Verlander, and I would take Scherzer and Strasburg over them.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Scherzer's the best right-hander in the sport, and Keuchel has proven what he could do with a Cy Young and in the playoffs last year, and Verlander might be the best big-game pitcher in baseball right now.
I think you hit the two teams that might have a combination better than Syndergaard and DeGrom. The one thing I would say about Verlander, he's a little old, so you got to wonder.
Yeah, but Chris, you know what? You got one game. You got one game to win. Are you taking Verlander, Syndergaard, or DeGrom?
Well, right now I'm taking Verlander, but we're not in that one game to win thing. We're in the next 6 months of this season. But I understand your point. You came up with the two teams. You're right about that. Go ahead.
And here's the thing on the Rays, Chris. I heard your caller last hour. I don't know what radio he's listening to or newspapers he's reading here in Tampa, but there's not a guy in this area, Chris, who thinks they're winning more than 70 games. Nobody. First of all, the only thing they've got going for them is they've got three. They got Archer, Snell, and Faria are good young pitchers. They got Colomé still in the bullpen. But you know this, Chris. By the trade deadline, Archer and Colomé are going to be gone. So the second half of the season, that Rays team is going to be absolutely brutal, even if they're decent in the first half.
Well, I'm not sure about Archer. I mean, Colomé most likely, and that's a guy that could end up with the Cubs. I don't think a guy like Archer. I think Archer is still signed for 4 years.
They've traded off every piece, even when they've been under contract, under good contracts. They've traded away Shield. They've traded away everybody. Archer's not going to be the one guy who survives.
Well, he does have 4 years left in his contract, does he not?
Which makes him more tradable now. Get something for him now. He's been a little injury-prone the last couple of years where he's had to miss starts. Get something for him now. He's not going to be pitching on a good team for years. This Rays team's going nowhere. When our best offensive player is your old guy, Matt Duffy, we got issues.
Fair point. Number two. Go ahead.
And then the other thing, Chris, I think another caller brought up a great point. I think the Yankees and Red Sox obviously are clearly winning the division, but what do those managers do in a big spot, either down the stretch, especially if one of them is fighting for a wild card spot or in a playoff spot? Do they know how to handle their bullpen and get away from, lefties bat, 172 against this guy in a big spot with 2 outs and runners on first and third? If they can get away from that, I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't know that they can do that.
That's a great point. And again, Aaron Boone's not going to be able to pick up the phone in the 7th inning in Houston, Game 5 at 2 apiece. Brian, what do you want me to do here? I mean, and I know the Yankees deny that ever happens, and I'm sure it does. But theoretically, you get the idea. GM and front office input is fine in June. It doesn't work in October. And look at a guy like. Look to a certain degree, Roberts. He utilized that bullpen so much, he wore him out in that Houston series, which is a factor. Here is Peter in Albany, New York. Peter, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have for me? What's on your mind?
Doggy, thanks for taking my call. I'm a lifelong Giants fan, and I'll tell you something right now. I would love nothing more than Odell Beckham to be gone from the Giants. I'm not questioning his talents. His talents are unbelievable, but the baggage that guy brings outweighs his talents. Anybody that thinks they're bigger than the NFL logo or NFL game is number one is ridiculous. And if you remember, the only playoff game that he's been in his 2 years, he went on a party boat to Miami the week before the game, and nobody would have said anything. But if you remember in that playoff game, he must have dropped like 5 or 6 passes.
Yeah,
that was the worst game of his professional career.
Peter, the one thing, and I understand that, and the Giant fan right now in March, let's trade him, get him out of here. I don't want to root for him the whole bit. If you do trade him, who is Eli going to throw the ball to?
He's got Ingram. He's got Shepard. I forgot their other receiver.
Marshall. Marshall got hurt.
No,
so
he's not coming back. No, they had a guy that replaced Marshall that wasn't too bad. I forget his name. He played in the last few games of the year.
Roger Lewis. Roger Lewis.
Think about it. They could, if they trade him before the draft, they can get a lot of draft picks, or they can get a player in draft picks. They can go in a lot of different directions. I would recommend, as a Giant fan, that I wouldn't want that guy on my team.
Listen, I get it.
His talents.
I understand your point, and a lot of Giant fans feel like Peter does. Well done, good call. About the Beckham, he's hard to root for, and he's a pain in the neck, and he is a distraction. There's no doubt about it. But he is a tremendous football player, and he's young, and he makes big plays and everything else. Now, he wears you out, but he makes big plays. They got an old quarterback. Very old quarterback coming off 2 awful seasons in which Beckham bailed him out a couple of years ago. Didn't have him last year, and he wasn't able to produce, Eli. You be very careful of getting rid of him. Now, I understand your point, though. Don't get me wrong. I do know where you're coming from. He does wear you out. Mike in Orange County, California. He's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Mike, well done. How are you today? What's going on?
Chris, you know what? I turned on the radio today. I could have sworn I was listening to a local talk show host breaking down the Angels and the Dodgers. You were great, my man.
Well, I mean, I love the baseball. You know that, and it's the season starts.
But you're
and the season starts.
The guy from the Register.
And the season starts in 2 days. So why not, Mike? Why not? Right?
You're great. Hey, I just want to say about the Angels. You know what? The Ohtani thing, and he brought up a great point. You know, he comes over as a younger player, unlike these other guys that came over as veterans.
Yeah, that's a good point he
made.
made.
Him some time.
Bill Plunkett.
We got to give him some time. I mean, he's obviously a kind of a rough spring, up and down. But everything I've read, everything I've watched in the games here, you know, the kid he's a hard worker. He fits in well. He goes to all the team dinners. I mean, he wants to learn. So let's just hope, you know, in due time, you know, he'll be right there. I mean, he's got the talent, no doubt, but it might take a while. Who knows? He might get sent down to the minors.
I don't think he'll get sent down, Mike. Good call. I think he'll be on the team. I think it's too embarrassing for the Angels to send him down. With all this attention, plus you send him down to the minor leagues, how about all the camera crews? They got to follow him in these small little ballparks. It becomes a mess, and this is not what the Angels want to deal with right now. So he is going to make the team. Now, they need him, and, you know, they had to be a little worried about him. He was awful. As Bill said, they'd be concerned. He was terrible in Tempe. We continue here on Mad Dog Unleashed. Don't go away.